Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joanna Jimenez. I am the program manager for Take Group Milwaukee. Welcome to this renter resources webinar hosted today by the Sherman Park Community Association and Take Group Milwaukee. We have a lot of information for you here today. We are recording this webinar and we'll make it available to you on our YouTube channel once this webinar is over. We also will email you a copy of this presentation as well. So I just want to give you some housekeeping information before we begin. Please put your questions on the Q&A function of this Zoom platform. We will answer all your questions at the end once everybody presents. For the presenters, please mute your microphones if you're not speaking. And again, please make sure that you write your questions in the Q&A section so that we can address those after the presentations. So just, I'm going to give you kind of like an overview of our agenda today. We will hear from the executive director from Sherman Park Community Association, as well as Mabel Lamb, and as well as Jermaine Alexander, the housing manager. We have the Milwaukee Public Library, Hermione Bell Henderson will be presenting on the Rent to Success program. We have Mediate Milwaukee, who will talk about their services. Joanne Liposovic, she will present on that. And then we have Deb Hefner, the Housing Strategy Director from Community Advocates, to give you a whole lot of good resources and information. And then, like I said before, we will take questions at the end. So a little bit about Take Group Milwaukee. We are a consortium program, a membership program comprised of realtors, housing counseling agencies, lenders, neighborhood groups, nonprofit organizations, and the city of Milwaukee, who are all working together to help people in the Milwaukee area obtain and maintain home ownership. So they really work hard to promote resources to help people buy, keep, and fix a home. So please feel free to contact us at any time. Our website is on here, and so is our hotline. Also, the links in this presentation are live, so that means that when you get that email with the presentation, you can click on these links and it'll take you to the proper website, to the proper resource that you are looking for. So I just want to quickly mention, again, that this partnership for this weekend with Sherman Park Community Association is just part of their housing resource event that they put on every year. And this year we had to do it virtually. And we had a home buying process webinar, and we just finished the home rehab process webinar. And so if you know any homeowners or people who want to become homeowners, I encourage you to share, the slides, because it'll have the links to all the workshops, and that way you can help out somebody else. So I'd like to introduce Mabel Lamb, the Executive Director for Sherman Park Community Association. Welcome, Mabel.
Hi, Joanna. Thank you so much. Welcome this afternoon to our last segment of the renter resources for residents. We are thankful for Take Root Milwaukee for partnering with us. So on behalf of the Sherman Park Community Association and Board of Directors, again, we welcome you to this segment. Please, if you do have questions and comments, please make sure you put them in the chat. And thank you again for joining us, and thank you for our partners.
All right, thank you, Mabel, for joining us, and obviously for partnering with us. So I have, and Hermione, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you're up.
Thank you so much for having me. You are saying my name correctly. I am Hermione Bell Henderson. I am coordinator of the Business, Technology, and Periodicals Department of the Milwaukee Public Library. Our mission is Inspiration Starts Here. We help people read, learn, and connect. And we are so excited to connect today with this program and to be able to connect with everyone who's joining in on the program. Through our partnership with the City of Milwaukee's Department of Neighborhood Services, we have been hosting a Rent for Success program for quite a while. The program is really aimed to equip you with important information so that you can build your knowledge on renters' rights so that you can too be a successful renter. And this has also been a great program for even if you aren't renting, also so that, you know, if you're a community partner, you can share it with people you know who are looking to rent. So our program is a free 1.5 hour tenant training program designed to, again, really educate and empower renters to make safe, healthy choices in their housing and to provide resources if anything goes wrong with an arrangement. We have a wonderful presenter through the Department of Neighborhood Services. So the Milwaukee Public Library, we host, but the presentation is done with Herlin Roberson, again, through Department of Neighborhood Services. She's very knowledgeable. She teaches you how to understand rental agreements, advocate for yourself legally, repair your credit, get a free credit report, respond to housing violations effectively, end a bad tenancy, and select the right place to rent. So we offer programs once a month through the Milwaukee Public Library. Our next sessions are April 22nd, May 20th, and June 17th. All sessions are from 4 to 5:30 and registration is required. You can do that by calling 414-286-8122. You can email our presenter, Herlin Roberson, at hrober@milwaukee.gov. And then you can also register through the Milwaukee Public Library via our event calendar. This wonderful program has been going on for quite a while, and it is sponsored by the Friends of the Milwaukee Public Library. So I hope that anyone who's interested can join us soon. And again, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for all that information, Hermione. We appreciate you being here. Again, please enter your questions in the Q&A if you have a specific question for Hermione about this program. Again, please type it up and we'll get to that at the end. And so now I would like to welcome Joanne. And did I say your name right?
Yeah, Lipozovic. It's a lot easier to
Yay.
pronounce than it looks. It's very
Yay.
intimidating when people see it, but it's
Thank
just what it looks like.
Okay.
So thanks, Joanna.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Take it away.
Okay, thanks. It's great to be here. And actually, it's really great to follow Hermione because we at Mediate Milwaukee do a lot of work with the Department of Neighborhood Services, and a lot of what we talk about is prevention. And so attending the tenant training sessions, learning about how to understand the nature of a tenancy will hopefully lessen the need to contact a group like us. And hopefully, though, if there is difficulty, you can contact us and we can help to resolve the problem without it ending up in an eviction, which is really what we're all about at Mediate Milwaukee. So we are a group of mediators. We're all attorney mediators, and our principal mission as it pertains to landlord tenant work is to avoid preventable evictions. We know some evictions are not preventable, but we know a large number of them are. So will you advance the slides, Joanna? Okay, so just a little bit, and I'm going to try and run through this fairly quickly because I know Joanna's going to send this out. There's lots of people that we want you to hear from, and they're really more than anything, we want to be able to take questions. But what is mediation? That word doesn't really mean a lot to a lot of folks, and it's really just a process where a neutral, trained mediator, someone like me or my colleagues, get involved to help facilitate a negotiation between two parties, typically the landlord and the tenant. Sometimes it's an agent, you know, that represents the landlord, but the goal is to increase communication, right? So our role is to be neutral. Our other role is to help to clarify information. And sometimes as a third party, we can help people to feel more comfortable to talk. They will share some information in the context of a communication with a mediator that they might not share with the other party because we don't have any skin in the game in terms of being an advocate. Our role is really to facilitate a process, create some structure, and move things forward. Next slide, please. So really, again, it's this idea of engaging in conflict constructively. And part of what we know as mediators is when conflict does arise, people kind of tend to shy away from it. We don't lean into conflict because it's uncomfortable, it's hard. Often it creates a lot of emotional anxiety. We get stressed, we get angry, whatever it might be. And part of our role is to help parties to engage constructively. Right now, because of COVID, almost all of our mediations are done by phone, and they're done, mediator to one party and then mediator to the other party, what would be known as shuttle mediation. Sometimes we can get folks on a three-way call, occasionally on a Zoom, but talking one-on-one tends to work really, really well. And again, sometimes this changes the dynamics of the party. Next slide, please. We don't decide the outcome. Our goal is literally to facilitate clarity of information, increase the communication, and look and see if there's an outcome that could be better than something like an eviction or some other sort of, just escalated situation. We cannot give legal advice, although we are all trained attorneys. We serve as a mediator. So we serve as neutrals, but we understand the law. We know what the limits are. We can help to kind of clarify issues when there's misunderstanding. And one of the things that we see very commonly is that people don't necessarily understand really what the reality is of landlord tenancy law. And so sometimes there's a lot of miscommunication as a result of that. And the goal again is to get folks to an acceptable outcome. In terms of our services, we do actually do three types. This is the next slide, Joanna. We started out doing foreclosure mediation back in the 2008 2009 financial crisis, and recently in the last about 3.5 to 4 years, we started to do landlord tenant mediation because there's a significant need. And it really comes into two categories: what we call prefiling, which is anything that's before there could be an eviction case filed. So that could be, while you're living in the property and there's an issue and there's communication challenges and you want to try and contact us. And a landlord can contact us, a tenant can contact us. It doesn't matter. It can be initiated by either party. And again, the goal is just to help with the communication. And in some cases, when a problem arises, even a previously existing good communication relationship can go kind of sideways. And so the sooner you contact us, the better, because we'd like to try and get it resolved as quickly as possible. And the longer people wait, kind of the more entrenched we get in terms of our opinions or our positions about what's going on. So pre-filing is really helpful, and it could deal with a lot of different issues. We also do what's called court-connected mediation. So right now, once an eviction has been filed, we still can engage, and a party could file, and then the tenant could contact us or the landlord could contact us. The commissioners in small claims court will often seek to refer parties who are in eviction court to us to try and get the situation resolved outside of court and get a dismissal. Because again, we all know the filing of an eviction can cause problems. The granting of an eviction can cause more problems. And so getting it dismissed is a preferred path forward. Next slide, please. So in terms of landlord tenant, and I talked a little bit about this already, either party can talk about it or can engage with it. And we can talk about really any issue that the parties have as concerned. The most common, of course, no surprise, is either a rental past due, missed rent, short rent, whatever it might be, late or a partial payment. It's also sometimes breaches of lease agreements, issues where maybe pets or parties who are not supposed to be, whatever it might be. There's any number of things that could be relevant. And then again, communication problems. And I go back to what Hermione's group talks about, which is really understanding what is your lease? What does your lease say, whether it's month to month or a 1 year? What are the terms? What are you agreeing to? What are you paying? When are you paying? How are you paying? Who are you paying? And where are you paying? Those are all really important. And then what are the things that are okay to do and what are the things that aren't? So you need to really understand before you sign that agreement exactly what you're expected and what's expected of you and what you can expect of your landlord. If there's an issue with the condition of the property, who and how do you get that resolved, and what can you expect in terms of response times, all those sorts of things. So again, the more we can do to push communication, elevate it at the beginning, we can, my goal is to be unemployed as a mediator. I'd love to never need to step in. That's the goal, is that we can all communicate so well that our services aren't needed. Next slide, please. So we're available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Referrals are done online, and you do it through an intake process online. And then we have some admin folks that will take care of getting things set up, assigning a mediator to the case, and then you'd be contacted by phone. Next slide, please. benefit. Really, the goal, as I said, is a solution that's agreeable, and it's got to be agreeable to both sides, right? And there's sometimes power imbalances, and we know that. So you can always say no. There's never a requirement to reach an agreement. And what we will try and do is help you to get there with the other party, and to hopefully help you see the value of a mediated agreement versus something else. Sometimes people will say, you know what, fine, I'm just going to take him to court, or I'm just going to let him take me to court because we're mad. And the reality is that's really not the best outcome. And so our goal is to help you see why that is, and then think about what else might work. And we've highlighted on here a couple things that we commonly see. We commonly see repayment plans, right? I'm behind, something happened. I had a car issue and I needed to spend my money to repair my car because I needed to get to my job. Common, it happens. We've all had that situation, unexpected expenses. So maybe some of it is working out a payment plan that's feasible and reasonable, not something that puts a person over a barrel, but something they can actually do. Right now with the COVID crisis, lots of people have lots of arrearages because there's been a huge economic impact. And we have a partnership with my colleague Deb, who's on the call as well, at Community Advocates. And we work very closely with them to help people access the funding that Community Advocates is serving as the funding agent for the COVID relief. So, and there's a person that we have, a liaison person right at Community Advocates that we work very closely with to help our clients get in touch with funding or evaluate if they're eligible, and then to try and shepherd that process together. Sometimes mediated agreements will be a move out agreement, right? Sometimes that relationship isn't working anymore for whatever the reason might be. Maybe it's too expensive. Maybe it's just that things have gotten so difficult, you don't want to live there anymore. Maybe it's that the condition issues can't be resolved, whatever it might be. But sometimes it's a move out agreement that can be workable, as opposed to, I'm going to get an eviction and then in 6 days the sheriff is going to show up. That puts people in a really difficult spot. Maybe it could be negotiated to be longer, more effective, more manageable for everybody. And again, this idea of agreeability is really key. Next slide, please. So we talked about the COVID, and I'm not going to really do much here because Deb is going to cover that a lot. But right now there is emergency rental assistance, distinct from what we all think of as the annual like $516 that somebody can get. This is very different and related to the COVID and has a substantially bigger scope. So Deb's going to talk about that. And we work at Mediate Milwaukee very closely with both Community Advocates, and then for folks who are in Section 8, we work with Hope House. So those are partnerships that we have found to be really, really, really valuable for all of us. Next slide, please. Kind of key benefits. One of the things is engagement, right? It's hard to engage, and so mediation can help people to get to the table. Even though we're not all sitting together like we might have pre-COVID, it's getting everybody connected. The mediation is a confidential process. So if it doesn't work out and you end up in court, the discussion there is it's private. I can't be subpoenaed to appear in court. None of that information is really relevant to a court proceeding. So that is a benefit. And the purpose of that is to try and really encourage candor in the communications to get at good solutions. The parties get to control the outcome. We as mediators don't direct the outcomes. We might tell you things that we've seen that have been effective, but it's really your decisions about how you want this to go. And no one is giving up any legal rights by participating in mediation. You can always proceed with a legal action if that is appropriate. And it is a written agreement. So when the communication results in a mediated outcome, we draft a mediated agreement, everybody signs it, and it can be shared later in court if there's an issue. And in the case of court connected, a mediated agreement can facilitate the dismissal of that case, because it can say, hey, the parties engaged in mediation, they came to this agreement, they agree to get that case dismissed, and it can be taken out of the court setting, and then you can deal with possibly even sealing that case if it's been dismissed. And lastly, in terms of benefit, it's this idea of resetting expectations, right? Yes, things can get difficult, but can we take a step back and think about, okay, let's kind of take a look at how this might benefit, what might benefit everybody in this situation? How can we improve communication? And one of our landlords that we do a lot of that does a lot of referrals to us, they've taken a very proactive mediation, what they call mediation first approach, where we resolve agreements through mediation. They see a change in the communication between their management folks and their tenants, their property management folks and their tenants, because we try and help to temper everybody's expectations about communication and check everybody about assumptions and, trying to just take a step back and look at things through a slightly different lens. Next slide. In terms of cost, it's free, which is great. So another benefit, of course, is that we operate completely through funding. So we don't charge parties. The idea that someone who might be facing eviction could afford to actually spend some money on top of this, we know is not even reasonable. So it's a service that's provided at no cost to the participants. And again, it can save time and money, particularly if it can get it pulled out of court. Those are time consuming and costly processes. So again, sooner is better than later. The next slide says the same thing. Mediation is free, and it talks about foreclosure mediation. If you happen to be in a foreclosure situation, there is a fee for that for Milwaukee County residents, and those fees are set, and nonetheless might help to get to a better resolution through foreclosure. So the biggest question, next slide, is how do you apply if you're interested? And here's the two links. You can apply at mediatemilwaukee.org or at apply@mediatemilwaukee.com. And we would love to help anyone who has a concern sooner rather than later. And sometimes we get calls where folks are just saying, I'm not sure if I need your help or not, and we'll talk to you. And then if it's not us and we can refer you somewhere else, we will refer you. So we'll try and do, like all of us do, I think, is a little bit of triaging and assess how might your situation best be resolved in the most beneficial manner for everyone. So please consider it as a tool in the toolbox of how to resolve things sooner. And let's hope that eviction court is a last space, that is only necessary when it cannot be resolved through some other mechanism. So thanks for your time. I'm happy to be here and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Joanne. Take Root Milwaukee is pretty much known for home ownership, right? But we understand that before someone is a homeowner, they're probably a renter, right? And that they need resources and support if they want home ownership to be that goal. And even if it isn't, we and the members of Take Root Milwaukee want to make those connections. We want to be able to empower people through whatever situation they're going through as far as housing, especially in these times of the pandemic. We've seen a lot of conflict in different areas of our lives in the world right now and in our country. And so, organizations like Mediate Milwaukee, they've been around for a very long time. And like Joanne said, this was Take Root Milwaukee was also birthed out of the foreclosure crisis almost 12 years ago now. And so, I'm really grateful that we're able to continue to work together and Mediate Milwaukee is a part of Take Root Milwaukee as well. And we work together to bring as many resources to as many people as possible. So thank you again, Joanne, for being here. Your partnership is invaluable.
Joanna, one last comment on that to the folks that are listening who are tenants that hope to be homeowners someday. Another reason to consider engaging sooner is that the impact of an eviction can be damaging to your credit. And so if you're trying to build your credit to become a homeowner, then that's something that could really hurt you. And so avoiding that eviction, again, is really critical because that's another place where it can cause longer term harm that we don't think about at the moment. So again, and Joanne, we're happy to be here, and Amy sends her regards. That's been a great partnership over the years. Yes. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, so up next, we have community advocates. They have a lot of great information. Also another partner with UITA and Take Root Milwaukee. We have Jessica Hernandez Salazar and Deb Hefner. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So today I'm going to talk about the services that Community Advocates provides around rental housing, as well as share the new groundbreaking effort with the launch of the Milwaukee Rental Housing Resource Center that Joanne has, and Mediate Milwaukee has definitely been a huge partner of. And also we will be partnering with Hermione as well through the Rent for Success program. So I feel like this is all coming full circle today. So community advocates, we exist to help people meet their basic needs. So at the backbone of our services is really centered around housing, and in particular helping with rental housing. Where we live is absolutely critical to our health and our overall well-being. And our role is to try and keep households stably housed and also neighborhoods stable. So our range of services through our housing department, we provide case management, landlord and tenant training. We provide relocation assistance in certain circumstances. We assist with rent abatement, so working directly with DNS on that as well. And then we also, a big part of our services is the rent and energy assistance, which I'll go into depth about. And then finally, triaging for legal and mediation referrals, which has definitely grown as a result of us, being a part of the new Rental Housing Resource Center. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to talk about rental assistance. So, more recently, because of the COVID dollars that have come in, the federal dollars, there's been more promotion on it. This is a service we've always provided. Most often our funding has been through HUD and other private foundations. Currently, we are receiving the Milwaukee and Waukesha County allocation of the federal stimulus dollars for rental assistance. And so just some background what rental assistance is. It's really intended to be a short-term support that can include arrears, rent assistance or forward rent, utility assistance, security deposit, and first month's rent. The application is based on the household's income, and the qualifier to receive rent assistance is some type of an income loss or a financial hardship. And most often rent payments, like I said, they're definitely approved based on the tenant circumstance. However, the rental payments go to the landlord. So we just launched a new online application system in February, really to meet the demand of and being able to administer these federal funds. So we did the CARES COVID dollars, between June and February. And like I said, we just launched our new federal dollars, but you can apply online. We also have a pickup and drop-off center at our downtown James Lovell Street location. That's at 728 North James Lovell Street. And so those are the two main ways to be able to apply. We also, as part of this new process, did initiate a landlord inquiry system through our application portal as well, where, again, this approval is definitely based on the tenant and household information. However, it provides an opportunity for the landlords to be proactive and initiate us contacting the tenant to apply if they have not. So the COVID emergency rental assistance, we did, again, just to meet the demand. I mean, there's so many households that have lost an income, or households that, even if they, were working previously, they had to take a leave or quit because their kids could have been virtually learning. So, COVID has just presented financial hardship in a way, that we've not seen before. With those initial CARES dollars, we administered over $11 million to over 5,000 households in Milwaukee. And that's just the community advocates portion, because we were joined along with other partners administering. Joanne mentioned Hope House. They played a huge role in it and still do by serving Section 8 recipients. And also SDC is also an administrator of these dollars, working to administer the city of Milwaukee's direct allocation. And if you can advance the slide, thank you. And so this is just the broader picture of what what was administered, just to speak to the demand that we're definitely still seeing demand this great. And so sustained resources will be absolutely imperative, because you can advance the slide, but what makes COVID especially unique is not just the amount that we're seeing, but also the duration of time. Most often the tenants that we're working with need support for several months, and that was factored into this new funding as well. And so who is eligible? I spoke on this briefly, but the main applicant should be a leaseholder. Again, they are Milwaukee, or we also do administer Waukesha County's assistance as well. And if one or more person in the household qualified for unemployment benefits during the period of COVID-19, so from March 2020 on, that's an automatic approval for rent assistance. If you did not qualify, or if it's still pending, you don't need to, you can still definitely apply, and you're most likely eligible. You just you show that your loss of income through a letter or some other type of information to show that loss. And so another eligibility criteria is being at risk of homelessness or housing instability as a result. We did remove, previously in our rent assistance, it was required that you needed to have a 5-day notice. We did remove that. Just having an arrears at this point, or an income, a proof of a hardship, shows that could be, that you are potentially at risk of homelessness. And then the income requirements are 80% or less of the county median income. And I think you can advance the slide. We have all tenants, provide, okay, thank you, that's great. Okay, so what can be covered? Up to 12 months of assistance, plus an additional 3 months if needed. So really up to 15 months potentially a tenant could be eligible for. And so what we would do is, we're able to pay rental arrears and future rent, which is a new development in this new round. We would work to cure the arrears first, and then we could assess for eligibility for future rent. And so utilities are also, a part of this funding. We at Community Advocates also administer energy assistance. And so because that's an annual benefit, we would work with our energy assistance department to try and maximize that benefit first. And then whatever portion remains, we could work through ERAP these funds to be able to potentially help. And I know that's on many residents' minds with that energy eviction moratorium ending last week. So we're doing significant outreach on that. And so internet is also an approvable cost in this round. We know that it's basically been an essential, piece of everyone's life, that can access it these last months. And so we are able to actually assist with internet bills as well. And so what information do I need to apply? And this is the biggest thing, we try to make these so clear on the upfront, because this can really help to be able to advance your application much quicker. And so, with the new application system, if you're applying online, you're able to start your application and save it and come back. If there's something that you need to gather, but ultimately, we want all of your household information. So that's just your demographics, but not only for you as the applicant, but we have to have it for everyone in the house as well. And, we do ask for a social security number. However, it's not required. And then your income sources as well. So, your personal information about the rental unit itself, the information for your landlord, because once you apply, the idea is, and this goes back to Joanne's, communication piece as well, is that we try to engage your landlord as soon as possible. Because oftentimes, we find out as long as the landlord knows, that you're trying to be able to pay, that it can really help to be able to avoid any type of a filing. And so the other piece then is the documentation. And so We do ask for an uploaded of a ID. And if you do have an eviction notice, you upload that. But as I mentioned previously, it's not required. And then there's that documentation of financial hardship. Again, if you are receiving unemployment or you just, we would see that wage statement. That's perfect to be able to upload that. That qualifies, to be able to, serve as that documentation. Otherwise, there would be like a layoff notice. Because of the nature of COVID, I mean, we have so many tenants that we're working with that literally just got a text, message that just said we're shutting down tomorrow, on March 14th of last year. So, we're trying to be as lenient as possible, while also doing our due diligence, because we understand it's a huge responsibility to administer these federal dollars. We want to make sure that they get to the households, most in need. Yep. So this is just the documentation on the tenant side, and then on the landlord side, as I said, we engage them in the process, and they're, they provide a proof of residency that you live there. We ideally get a ledger if you have arrears to show, what is owed, that proof of that, and then we also do ask for a lease as well. And I think you're going to go ahead and advance the slide, Joanna. Thank you so much. And so we can skip this one. I think I covered the good, but just to clarify though, that it doesn't have to be where you were terminated from the position. Even a decrease in hours obviously affects financials significantly. So just showing that, or if you were needing to be home to virtually teach your children as well.
Hey, Deb, yeah. Can I add one other thing? If people were impacted by COVID and were sick and you missed work, or your family member missed work because of COVID, that's another thing as well, because there's gaps of, maybe your hours weren't reduced or you didn't lose your job, but you were out for a month because you were sick and you didn't get paid. So that's another thing that qualifies.
Right. Thanks, Joanne. Yeah, so, we get questions about the new online application. It's spelled out on the website, but again, the idea is really that you're creating your own portal with us. And that's important as well, since we can do that future rent, because it allows you to be able to go back in then and upload additional information if you do need subsequent months of assistance. So you create a profile. From there, you're able to complete the application. You submit. A landlord notification goes out immediately to your landlord. So it's important too that you get that email address correct. And again, if for some reason it's not correct, we can fix it. But again, just trying to be able to provide advice on things that we see that create holdups in the application process. And then once you submit officially, one of our housing advocates review, they'll reach out to you and let you know, if any additional information is needed or clarification. And then, while that's happening, that they're working with you directly, they also are working with the landlord to make sure that they're getting everything back that we need. And then there's the decision notice. And so we notify you as well as the landlord, or notify the tenant and the landlord as soon as that's made. So that covers, some overall, I guess, guidelines on the rental assistance. And then, the other thing that we really wanted to be able to share today is just make sure that we're informing as many people as possible about the new Milwaukee Rental Housing Resource Center. It's been an effort that's been underway really since 2018. It's a large group of stakeholders, tenant advocates like Joanne, Immediate Milwaukee, and government, and we've been working together to create this. COVID, no doubt, expedited the development of the resource center. And so we're really proud of what we've been able to accomplish this last year, and especially at a time when we know that the streamlining these services are so absolutely critical. And Jessica, as you said, Joanna, Jessica, my colleague, is on the webinar as well today. Jessica is serving as our Rental Housing Resource Center triage specialist. So what is the Milwaukee Rental Housing Resource Center? It is currently a virtual space. It will definitely be a physical space as well in the future, located at Community Advocates at our downtown James Level Street building. But really, it's intended to be a one-stop shop for landlords and tenants to be able to access information related to rental housing. Prevention is a huge key part of it. And it's bringing all of these providers under one roof. But we do have a website that launched in the midst of this last year, the renthelpmke.org, that I encourage you to go to. And plans for the virtual center, or I'm sorry, the physical center are underway. The construction's been done throughout the pandemic. And Jessica is able to take appointments for those who need access to technology to be able to get help with like the rent assistance application and also Zoom court hearings as well. So the partners, I mentioned a group of 30 stakeholders really work together to create this idea. These implementation partners are now working, to make it a reality on the ground. So they include legal and mediation. So we have Legal Action of Wisconsin. We have Legal Aid Society of Milwaukee. We have the Apartment Association of Southeastern Wisconsin, which is absolutely groundbreaking because the Apartment Association is landlords that have been at the table to help us develop this. City of Milwaukee, again, of course, we keep mentioning Mediate Wisconsin. UITA has been the convener of the effort since the get-go of its inception. And Milwaukee County, Hope House, Impact 211. And then, of course, Community Advocates. So our model is really, again, these 9 co-partner organizations working together to streamline resources and information to create stable rental housing for landlords and tenants. And our approach, and this is really what Jessica is working to do every day, is streamline intake. And so again, before, we had these partners working in these various sectors, but because we know housing, is so complicated, oftentimes, even, if the front door, you realize, is that you need rent assistance, a mediation may be involved or may be needed to be able to work out those mechanics. I mean, Joanna and I work on cases together, every week. And then sometimes we need to involve legal. And so it allows our team to be able to really take a look at the circumstance and then provide options, a game plan, and then make those direct referrals.
Deb, can I add one little comment? One of the other really great things about this was all the partners that were working on this all have the realization that if you're a landlord or a tenant and you're trying to get this information, it was very frustrating to go to this place and then maybe to have to go to that place, and it was incredibly inefficient. And so to expect folks that are under a stressful situation to then do all of this additional work, it was like, wait, we need to all get ourselves together so folks can readily access all of us at the same time or simultaneously, because to Deb's point, sometimes you need to engage across several different services at the exact same time. So this is a real conscious effort to try and address that issue and to be very user focused as opposed to provider focused.
Right. Thank you, Joanne, for clarifying that. Actually, Joanna, can you go back just to the previous slide? Okay, great. So again, so streamline intake, cross-sector collaboration, and then just, I mentioned this, obviously the Apartment Association is a partner, but just, the effort is really engaging both tenants and landlords. And so, it's been critical, I think, throughout the pandemic too, just the opportunity to be able to provide alternatives to filing. I mean, the eviction moratorium has no doubt been helpful in that way, and the availability of rental assistance. But I think, the group, we're making significant progress in terms of being able to, demonstrate to landlords, like how can we actually solve, these problems without the eviction filing. And so the availability of these services, And then it's sometimes, as Joanne mentioned before, and I mentioned, a relocation may be necessary, but how can we work together to do that so that it's a planned move, versus the alternative. Thanks. You can advance a note. Okay, so really with the RHRC, this is just the beginning. So much of what we've been doing, this last 12 months have been reactive. I think we're all starting to get, really excited about advancing some of the innovative ideas now. I think especially around housing navigation, we see there being a lot of gaps for those who do need to relocate and trying to work to be able to do that tenant landlord matching, as I'm working with Hermione on additional landlord tenant training, lease signing, webinars, like just there's so many things that we want to do. And it's just exciting because we having the capacity to be able to do it with all these partners under one roof. So we're really excited to have this exist in Milwaukee. And really make a dent and make some change. So thank you for the opportunity. Jessica, if there's anything that you wanted to add, as being on the ground, already triaging these through our rent helpline, which is up on the screen now. The Rental Housing Resource Center rent helpline is the 895 rent. And then it's the renthelpmke.org website. And then I also list some other numbers here as well for just the general resources, but that's really a front door to be able to access the Rental Housing Resource Center resources. Great.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Deb. I know that this is a lot of information, but this has been, a project that, has been in the works for a very long time. And so I think, you would agree with me that, we're very grateful and lucky that we have so many partners, that are just stepping up and being part of this and actually being proactive, especially to reach out to the landlords, to get them involved, to get them to kind of have a different insight into their tenant and their situations. And again, we want to know about their situations too, because we know that there's landlords that are hurting a lot, because of the pandemic as well.
Yes.
So, we're hoping that, there's going to be more resources available to be able to help people. But if you're on this webinar right now and you need those resources, please visit the websites that are on this PowerPoint. Like I said, many of the links are live, and you're able to reach, the help that you need. And please share it with someone a family, a relative, a friend, a neighbor, your landlord. If you need to connect, to either resolve an issue, prevent an issue, and work through an issue. So thank you again, Deb and Jessica from the Community Advocates. So great to have you here. I see some questions. So one question is, if I'm moving out of state and I have evictions, where do I go to find housing? Anybody wants to take this on?
So you're moving from out of state and you have evictions. So you could definitely call the Rental Housing Resource Center, the triage line. We do have housing lists and also landlords that we work with that are willing to accept, a tenant that may have a past eviction on their record. So I would definitely recommend reaching out to the triage team at the Rental Housing Resource Center.
Thanks, Deb. And maybe you can help with this one too. My tenant went through the process. I did receive the email, but she hasn't received any response.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I could take a look at that or connect. I think I see the name. Well, my contact information we can put in the chat, but I would be happy to look at that particular case to see where the holdup is.
I just want to add, I think sometimes in community advocates is taking in a lot of applications. And I think that folks don't always know if they're, they might not have a completed application. And so the process can take longer because the kind of the review piece doesn't happen until all the various component parts are gotten. And so sometimes there's a lot of back and forth. The folks that are working inside community advocates as the case managers, communicate by email or by phone. And so that can be a back and forth. And so although there are kind of time frames, the real kind of key there is that that's based on once there's a completed application. And so that may very well be the holdup. And I don't know if that person can go on and check the status on if the landlord is speaking on behalf of their tenant, can the tenant go on and check the status of their application? That might be helpful and follow up directly.
Yeah. Thank you, Joanne. I'll put my contact in here as well, but as well as our rent helpline. But usually it's such an individual thing, and you can go into the portal and kind of see where you're, what status that you are. But I'd be happy to take a closer look.
So I don't see any other questions.
I'd
So
just
thank
like
you
to
so
add
much.
something, Joanna.
Yeah.
As the home repair manager for Sherman Park Community Association, I'd like to extend a special thanks to everyone that is in the the rental housing arena, helping tenants, because as we know, many of the neighborhoods of the partners that were on the 3 workshops today and that have presented, that the rental housing makes up the majority of many of our neighborhoods right now. So having a rental housing resource center is very invaluable. I deal with a lot of the resources, and I can help a lot with homeowners. But when it comes to tenants, and we get those calls, so it's great to have a resource to send individuals to. And then, like the first segment was, it was introducing individuals that are renters into how to become a homeowner. So making that conversion, so possibly that could be something that can help to strengthen the neighborhood, again, with long-term homeowners, new homeowners, but definitely we have to strengthen our renters because, again, they make up a large majority of our neighborhoods. And so, again, I'd like to thank you all for all the hard work you do.
Thank you so much, Jermaine.
Absolutely. And, going back to what I said earlier, that's what Take Root Milwaukee is all about, is to make those connections. It's not specific to just one area of housing, right? And having partners like, the new rental center is like Jermaine said, very, very invaluable. We have renters a lot in the city, and so we want to be able to help as many people as possible wherever they're at, right? So I thank you, Hermione, Deb, and Jessica again for being part of this workshop and providing this very valuable information. We hope that we can reach as many people as possible. And Joanne too, also.
Thank you. Well, and I was going to say, Joanna, one of the challenges that we all have is it's really hard to get the information out because there's no easy way to say, hey, we'd like to send something out to every tenant in the city, right? There's not a nice, easy way to do that, or every landlord in the city. So sharing information, Jermaine, you're going to be huge in that regard because you deal with so many different folks. So it's really this kind of passing on this information and getting as many people aware of these resources because it's really difficult to get the word out because there's not a centralized vehicle to do it. So we all have to help each other.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's what our hotline is there for, to get you connected. So again, online on the screen, you can see our website, takerootmilwaukee.com. We do have a tab that does have some information for renters. I see we got a quick question, and if you guys are okay, we can answer it. A bit off topic, but are there any resources available now, not a wait list, for people looking for housing that are low income and can't quite afford the typical rent for a 3-bedroom?
Yeah, I mentioned, through the Rental Housing Resource Center, this is affordable housing is definitely something that we need to work on. And I think, our triage team is developing a stronger list as well, of these options. I would say I would recommend getting in touch with the team. And I think it's just quality, affordable housing is really where we need innovation around as well, and developing new solutions. And happy that the Rental Housing Resource Center, is going to focus on that as well.
And I could just add, that no, from experience, I know that sometimes people feel like they get the runaround. If they call one organization and say, no, we can't help you, we'll send you over here. But the thing is that every situation is different. And so the solutions are going to be very unique themselves as well. So I would tell people, not to feel discouraged about that. If you do call one person, like Jermaine said, he gets calls all the time, but he can't help, right? But he knows somebody, right? He has that tool to be able to refer people. So again, I hope that people aren't discouraged, but that's what the hotlines are for. And I believe that just about everybody in this arena, in housing, wants to help people no matter what, and we do our best to be able to connect people to the right resources. And so please reach out to anyone here. Please use the links, the websites on this presentation, and we'll try our best to get you the help that you need. Does anybody want to make any other closing statements? Mabel or Jermaine, again, thank you for this partnership, this collaboration. We love to continue to work with our Take Root Milwaukee members. This is a benefit to the membership. If you're an organization that, deals with housing, or anything that could, be another resource for us in the city, please reach out to me, Joanna Jimenez at Take Root Milwaukee.
And in closing, for those of you who are listening in, please, 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 I can't say that enough. Share this information with your friends, post it on your own Facebook page so that people do have the resources that are here. These systems have been built and created to support all residents, whether they're homeowners or tenants. So if you can, please feel free to share that information with those who may also rent. And like I said before, thank you so much, Take Root, and our community partners in making this virtual housing resource fair possible.
And please feel free to, reach out to us on social media. We are all on social media as well. And you can find resources there if that's easier for you to get in contact with everybody. So thank you again for our panelists, our partners, and for everyone who joined here today. Have a great and safe weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Take care.
everybody. Have a nice
Thanks,
weekend.
Joanna.
You're welcome. My pleasure.